Hello and welcome to the Sonic Cinema podcast. My name is Brian Scuttle and thank you for joining us at www.sonic-cinema.com. Tonight, I'm going to take another deep dive into the world of horror, joined once again by Phil Fasso from Death Ensemble. And this time, we will be joined by our good friend Heather Burnt, who is the one who actually introduced us. She's done uh, written work for both Sonic Cinema and Death Ensemble over the years, and horror is a genre that's near and dear to her heart, and so it only made sense that we bring her in on this as well. And this should be a pretty fun conversation. I'm looking forward to it. So, for this episode, we're going to take another dive into the horror genre. This being October, this being a month where a lot of people tend to dig into horror any way they can. And I'm joined once again by Phil Fasso from Death Ensemble. It's good to hear from you again.
Thank you.
And on this conversation, we are bringing in our friend Heather Burnt, who actually brought us together. She's done some writing for both Sonic Cinema and Death Ensemble, and horror's a genre near and dear to her heart. So it's good to bring her in on this.
Near and dear to my heart. That sounds so wrong when we're talking about horror, but yeah, I guess so.
But you know what? I mean, it is kind of true. And when it comes
It
to
is near and dear to my heart, though. I don't want to jump right in with name dropping, but you know, AJ Bowen. Hello, I'm just gonna drop. Yeah, I mean that's gonna come up in the conversation. Talk about near and dear to my heart.
well, and I
That's
mean,
gonna come up.
well, and
That's
certainly,
gonna come up. Sorry.
nah, that's all right. And certainly, talking about the horror genre, I think both Heather and I, since we went to high school with AJ, we'd be remiss to not bring him into the conversation because some of our favorite horror movies of the past few years have had him in there.
No, I did
Near and
not.
dear to my heart. You didn't have a crush on him for 5 years of your life.
No, I did
Sorry,
not go to high school with AJ Bowen, and I have never had a crush on him, so I'm totally left out.
No, that Brian definitely didn't, or not that I know of.
No, not I did not. I definitely did not. You were the only one of this three that can definitely say that.
But I'm not the only person I know that had an epic crush on him. I thought I had the most epic crush, but I've heard some other stories of other crushes. Whatever. But near and dear to my heart, yes, I didn't even know he was into horror himself. All those years that I was crushing on him, it was weird. And then he ended up stuck in horror movies that I love, and one that I hate, but I haven't told him that ever.
Well, we could talk about those a bit later. So getting right
Yeah,
into
exactly. Like I said, I didn't want to name drop right away, but I know it's going to kill the conversation. And you said near and dear to my heart, and I'm like, well, I feel like AJ's near and dear to my heart. It's going to come up. It's going to come up. We're talking horror. You use those words. Yeah.
Yeah. So Heather, what exactly was it about the horror genre that sort of where you gravitated towards it, and sort of when did that start for you?
I knew this question was because I listened to your podcast with Phil, and I was like, how do I answer that? Because I honestly don't know exactly how or why I gravitated towards it.
Yeah, it's not. Let's face it, Heather. It's not an easy question. Like when I gave my answer, it's a bunch of different factors. You know, it's a bunch of different things coming together at one time. It's not any one thing. You know?
Yeah, and I mean that's true. But for me, I realized it made me realize like how bad my parents were at parenting. I had very absentee parents. You guys both talked about, like, Brian said his parents allowed him to watch the Friday the 13th movies. And you talked about, you had dysfunctional families, so you kind of felt like it was an escape from that or whatever. For me, I'm just demented, and my family is, sorry, Brian, fucked up. you're not put a warning on.
I don't care about language on here. I'm fairly
Okay,
certain
good,
I've dropped a
because you
few
know me well
F-bombs.
enough to know that
Yeah, I have no
F-bomb is
problem
not
with
gonna
that. So
Okay, good. So I was like, I don't know how else to say it. My family's fucked up. So you have very absentee parents, and so I watched whatever the fuck I wanted. And my brother and I just basically raised each other, and my brother is 18 months older than me. He was a terrible influence because his friends were terrible influences on him. And so I gravitated towards things I really probably shouldn't have been exposed to as a child. So when did it start? As a child, after my dad left, because my dad was a pretty strict parent before he left. But then it was like my mom could only watch us so much. You know, she was a single mom and she had to work, and it was like we were latchkey kids, and it was like it was just like no parenting. We could just watch this demented shit whenever we wanted, and I told Brian privately that I used to watch these obscure horror movies in high school with a friend of Brian's and mine. That if we would just go to the video store and try to find the most obscure shit we could find, and the more like we rented Cannibal Holocaust just because it had label on it that said it had been banned in like 42 countries, and we're like, that's the one we have to watch, just because we wanted to see the most fucked up shit we could find. And so it started when I was a young kid. I was watching stuff I really shouldn't have been, and then by high school, I was going to the video store with a friend on a regular basis to find whatever messed up shit we could find. So I don't know what made me gravitate towards it, and it makes me question myself a lot. Like, what is wrong with me? I like this really messed up stuff. So,
well, and the thing is,
absentee parent. That's the short answer, Brian.
Well,
absentee parent.
Well, and the thing is, it's like sort of when I did really start to watch horror movies like the Friday 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and stuff like that. I mean, it came from word of mouth. It came from, other people talking about and stuff like that. I mean, I think especially depending on the age, if you're younger and you're not used to that type of thing, I think that's how a lot of people get into watching it. I mean, it's not necessarily like, my parents wouldn't have taken me to see those movies, but the fact of the matter is, it's like at a certain point. Now, I should clarify something you point out from the podcast, and I think I pointed out in there too, but it's like, so my parents, and specifically my mother, who is more of a movie person and pop culture person than my dad is, I mean, yes, it is true that she let me watch horror movies and slasher movies up to a point. When I started to really get into, I watched the first 6 Friday 13th movies, and then I started to think about writing little sequels and stuff like that. I mean, and the whole idea of Jason as the unkillable killer, that type of thing unnerved her. So I think to a certain extent, at a certain point, she felt like she had to step in, and it's like sort of basically get me to back off a little bit on watching horror, because she was a bit concerned for my emotional well-being because of the whole idea that I was sort of obsessed with this, unkillable killer, and the fact that it's not really it's not really something that obviously you're not going to see that in real life, and it's like it's it can, I think at that point I was still a little bit more impressionable to where that could, if I had taken a wrong turn somewhere, that could have screwed me up. But the fact of the matter is, so
you're saying you're not screwed up, Brian? Because I know you.
Oh, I know I am, but not to the point where somebody is going to look at something that I did and have done in my life and go, oh, well, maybe the movies made him do that. And it's
Right.
like, yeah. So that's where I'm coming from when I say that. I mean, I
Yeah,
clearly
I don't.
have issues,
I don't.
but
I don't. I never found. I don't think nothing. I was never obsessed with any with horror. I just really have always loved it. But it's like I love different stuff in both you and Phil. Same, especially Phil. Phil and I disagree on stuff all the time.
Yeah, but I disagree on stuff with people all the time. It's not just you. Everyone disagrees with me.
But I mean, in terms of horror specifically, like you know the genre better than I do, but we like and dislike different things about it.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about horror. There's so many things out there within the genre. You know, there's supernatural stuff. You got your slashers, home invasions. There's so many things out there that there really is something for every horror fan to like. Now, I have my particular likes and dislikes. You know. I appreciate other people. Like Brian, I know loves The Shining. We had a discussion on Facebook a couple weeks before the first podcast where, you know, I just said it's not my cup of tea. You know, it's not the movie for me. But I understand why he wants it. He likes it.
Yeah, I don't like those slow burn kind of movies. This is why when I was talking about like AJ's movies that I love and one that I hate. Like the one that I hate is the one that even AJ himself is so proud of, and I knew he was proud of it, and I didn't want to shit on it because like he was so proud of it. I mean, he should have been proud of his work. He was one of the best things about it, and I'm not saying that just because I know him. It's honestly true, but I hated that movie so much. It was one of those slow burn movies. And
Which one was that?
I don't get why people like that. House of the Devil.
Oh, I hate that flick.
That movie was so painfully terrible to me. But AJ was really proud of it, so I had to see it.
There's a scene in that movie.
But now I am shooting on it open.
There's a scene in that movie, and again, I'll go back to what slow burn means to me in a minute. But there's a scene in that movie where it literally spends like 2 minutes watching the babysitter watching TV. Now, I know that babysitters in real life watch TV when they're watching kids. I don't need to see that for 2 minutes. That's boring. And when I hear slow burn, I really hear, hey, nothing happens a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's what I equate slow burn with. So for me, you know, I'm not one of those guys. I mean, life is about action and reaction. Movies are supposed to imitate life in some way or another. So movies, when they imitate, you know, and have action and reaction, that's what that's all about. You know, I know people went nuts, and people love Ty West, and I love that flick. I watched it, and I'm like, what am I watching here? I'm watching a babysitter babysit. This is not funny.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Greta Gerwig was fantastic in that movie, and they killed her off. Like she and AJ were the best things about that whole movie. She was fantastic.
Well, Dee Wallace is in it. You know, I love Dee Wallace, so.
Well, there's that too. But like, I thought Greta Gerwig was fantastic. I hated that they killed her off so fast. She was like the best thing in the movie until they killed her. And there was, of course, AJ's the one that killed her. And then the next thing, I mean, AJ was good until the end when I hope that in Your Next, because Ty West was in Your Next also, I really hope that my eye scene in both movies was a deliberate callback to House of the Devil, because that was hilarious to me. It was so absurd, and I hope that they thought it was absurd too. Otherwise, if they were serious, like they thought that was like a good serious element. No, it's not, but it's hilarious to me. And like now when I think of AJ, I think my eye, and it's like, I don't know. Those two, Your Next is AJ and Ty West, but a movie I love, because there's a lot of action in that movie, and it's a total slasher. And he told me I would love it, and he was right, because he knows me well enough to know I love a good slasher. And that was definitely a good slasher. And I loved seeing him fat. I told him that on Twitter. He didn't like it very much. So I said, I love seeing him fat. But I did, because I knew skinny AJ growing up. And the whole joke in that movie was about him being the fat brother. That was funny to me. It was really funny to me, and the way he played that part of the character. I know I've like switched movies that we're talking about, but I'm just, it's like, to me, you mentioned Ty West, and immediately I thought of You're Next Again.
Mm-hmm.
Not again, but a movie that doesn't suck that has AJ and Ty West involved. So,
Brian, you do realize that you're gonna have Brian, you do realize you're gonna have to call this Sonic Cinema's AJ Bowen podcast, right?
Oh, whatever. No, I don't. I can't believe it would come out. I didn't really plan to talk about it that much. It's just that, I mean, I can't. I associate the genre with him in a lot of ways, not entirely, but there are a lot of movies that like I said, that I love, and one that I hate that he's involved in.
But I will agree with you on one thing. He does look better with a little weight on him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he looks better with it. I just thought it was funny. It's funny to me to see him have a little heavier, because he's not naturally like a chubby guy, and he's really. I feel really bad. I think he's a little. He might be a little sensitive about it. I thought he put it on for a role. I think it was the role in, what was it, Horrible Way to Die, which I still haven't seen.
Yeah.
He put the weight on for a role, and then he still had it on when he was filming Your Next. I don't know which came first. I don't know which movie came first. Maybe he kept the weight on for Your Next or whatever, but that was part of the whole thing in that character in Your Next, was the brothers picking on him for his weight. And I found that really funny, because just mostly because I know him, and I know him not to be a fat guy. But he played it really well. Like, one of my favorite things in Your Next is the family photo. Like, this is the subtlest thing. It's so fucking brilliant, though. The family photo. AJ is the fat brother, clearly sucking it in. I'm like, that's a committed actor right there. That's what is so great about his performances. His performances are great. Not all his movies are great, but yeah.
I'm really surprised that you still have not seen A Horrible Way to Die.
I haven't
feel
seen
like
a lot of stuff that I need to see.
Yeah. Well,
I haven't seen. This is not a horror topic, but we were just talking about how I still haven't seen War for the Planet of the Apes, which I should have seen. Mm-hmm. I'm mad that I missed it in theaters. So there's a lot of movies I haven't seen that I mean to see. Horrible Way to Die, that's one on the backlog, because I have a terrible attention span, and I forget to go see movies that I want to go see, and then when I have the chance to, I'm like, no, I'd rather watch this stupid reality show that requires no brain effort whatsoever for the next half hour to an hour, because my attention span sucks. So I really have to be in the right headspace to deliberately watch a movie, a feature film. But that's why I like a lot of the movies that I like. I can't defend them as being quality.
Mm-hmm.
I like them because they don't require a lot of brain effort. I like movies that make me think, but I also like movies that make me not think.
Yeah.
So, and my attention span it determines which I'm going to choose at any given day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but sometimes there's nothing wrong with, I tend to lean more toward cerebral stuff in life and literature and movies. But sometimes, there's that time, there's that stuff where I just want something that's dumb fun, I can accept that as long as the movie knows it's dumb fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind. When a movie thinks that it's saying something or it's being something different, it's just dumb. That's not fun,
Yeah.
But when a movie's dumb fun and it knows what it is, I'm fine with that. I can enjoy that.
Right. And that's why my roommate has downloaded a shit ton of obscure, low budget B-movie horror movies to watch between now and Halloween. Because that's one of the things that he and I clicked on right away, was our love of that kind of horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Low budget, dumb fun kind of stuff. The stuff that is terrible, impossible to argue that it's quality, but just dumb fun. And there's one of the movies I'm looking forward to most that he has downloaded, just from the title alone, is Aerobicide.
Oh my God!
I don't just from the title. I'm like, I have to see this. like aerobicide is like the other title, and then I guess another country is Killer Workout. Aerobicide is a better title. But Killer Workout tells you exactly what's going on. This is a horror movie, cheap horror movie that has something to do with people being killed working out.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Well, then you got to check out. Then you got to check out Death Spa.
I will have to tell him to add that.
Death Spa is one of those killer gyms with there's possessed workout equipment. You should find fun with that one then.
Oh my God. Is that
yeah, these are the movies that I love. It's like I love the cerebral movie too, but I love the dumb stuff. Like I unabashedly love really stupid shit that is just stupid for the sake of being stupid. Although there are some that are absolutely terrible that aren't even fun on that level. And I can't remember the name of one. It was locally produced, and it was so bad. Like we thought that it was going to be great because it's like the title and the plot and the premise just sounded like, oh, this is going to be so bad, it's going to be great. And then it turned out to be like so bad that we regretted the time we wasted watching it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the title of it now, and it bugs me that I can't remember the title because I want to tell everyone, don't watch this. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, do you know if Death Spa is available on Netflix or something like that right now? Because I feel like
it's actually available for free on Amazon Prime right now. I know that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm making a note.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, it's like I've got a pretty decent collection of horror in my movie collection, but it's like a lot of the time, like especially this month, it's like we've got Stars, we've got Hulu, we've got Netflix. I've been looking through all of those, seeing if there's stuff that I'm kind of interested in as far as, oh, I've kind of heard of this, but not really. And it's like, oh, this seems like it could be an interesting movie, but yeah. I've been kind of disappointed with like Netflix's selection this month. It's like there's not a lot that, like, if there's really cheesy creature movies out, if I were in the mood for that, it's like I'd probably be enjoying it. But like there's not much as far as like really cheesy like slashers and stuff like that. Stars has a lot of that right now on their app, but yeah.
Well, Netflix is too concerned with pushing its own stuff right now.
Yeah.
Netflix used to be a gold mine for, retro horror flicks and all kinds of fun stuff and obscure stuff. You'd find AIP movies with Vincent Price, like The Witchfinder General. Now it's all like, and again, I have to say that the most recent horror flick I watched the other night when I had the night off was The Babysitter, which is a Netflix original. So they're more intent on pushing out their own stuff, and I think that's kind of a shame because Hulu and Stars and Amazon Prime and things like that, they've really pushed it well past where Netflix is, and for a genre fan, it's kind of sad if that's your only outlet for it.
Yeah. There's a new service that I just sent Brian the link the other day. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's like Movies Anywhere or something like that. That's trying to compete with Netflix and Hulu because Netflix and Hulu and Amazon are pushing out all their own original material.
Yeah.
They're like they want to get back to being more like Netflix used to be, where you could find all the stuff that you want to see that from all the different.
Well, the thing is, maybe I need to reread that article again. I kind of got the impression that what that article was saying was that Movies Everywhere was basically like sort of a hub for all of the services. I may need to reread it.
I know. I'm a little bit confused by it too, but that to me, I'm glad that whatever they're doing, whatever exactly it is, it sounds like it's going to be a good thing because I'm annoyed that Netflix. I'm not a big Netflix watcher in the first place, but I'm annoyed that they are putting out so much original stuff that I'm not terribly interested in. I mean, there's a lot of original stuff they're putting out that I am interested in. Usually documentaries, But like all the other stuff, I'm like, no, like I want to find like the horror movies that I haven't seen, or I want to find the blockbusters I missed when they were in the theaters. But yeah, no, you're not finding that stuff on Netflix anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't like that they put The Signal in Halloween favorites one year. No, that movie's a Christmas movie, holiday movie. That movie takes place at New Year's Eve.
Well,
That's
I think that
crazy.
I think the algorithm for picking Halloween favorites is a little ridiculous, considering that the Babysitter got released last Friday, the 13th. It's 6 days on there, and they've already got it as a Halloween classic, according to groupings. So yeah, I'm not really too concerned about that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
No, I got you. I'm right there with you on that.
It's a Christmas movie, damn it. It's not the Halloween favorite. See, I know these movies too well, and I'm trying my damnedest not to turn it into what you just said a few minutes ago. Because I love so many of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
The Signal is seriously one of my favorite horror movies ever, though. I'm like, that's not even a name dropping, like, he's my friend and he's in it or whatever. Like, no, I love that movie, period. That movie is fantastic. It's probably my favorite horror movie. And I don't think it gets enough credit.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just mentioned it because we were talking about Netflix, and I remember when they put it in the Halloween favorites one year, it irked me. That's the only reason that I brought it up. But I should bring it up because it is my favorite horror movie, and we are talking about horror movies. But it's Halloween.
That's interesting. I had no idea that. That's interesting because I had no idea that was your favorite horror movie.
Oh my God! You've seen it though, right?
Yeah, of course.
And honestly, I have to. I feel a little bit dirty with the name dropping thing, but I just realized the only reason I even know you, Phil, is because of AJ. I didn't start following Icons until he got on Facebook. I mean, he's been on and off Facebook over the years, and came back this year, and he's gone again already. But he took forever to get on Facebook. He got on Facebook, and I guess he was following the Icons page. I was like, ooh, that looks like a cool horror page. So I started following Icons because of AJ. And then you did the search for writers or whatever, and
yes,
and that's how I got to know you. Like it all goes back to AJ. And
I'm getting the feeling that everything in life goes back to AJ.
In my life, maybe I don't know, not really, because I don't like our lives intersected in fourth grade, fifth grade for him. But in all seriousness, I probably only know Brian because of AJ, because my epic crush on AJ is the reason I chose to go to high school where I did. Because I was going to go to performing arts high school, and then AJ was like, "Hey, you going to be in the tuba section next year?" And I was like, "Oh, he talked to me." And so I went to the high school that Brian and I went to, and the rest is history. He became the famous actor. Well, not famous, semi-famous. Famous in the genre. He's famous-ish. He became a working actor. That's all that matters, really. A working actor. He became a working actor, and a very good one. And I am nobody. So I was going to go to a performing arts school for acting, and then he's the one who thought he was going to be a professional tuba player, and instead he's an actor, and neither of us play tuba anymore. So.
Well, I got to say, because you mentioned Icons, that when I got involved with Mike Cucinato and Rob Galuzzo, there, the guys who were running Icons before I came in, Rob particularly, and again, not anything disparaging, but those guys were kind of into, hey, let's find the underground guys, let's find the new, those guys loved horror for years and years, like I did. But they were more along the line of, hey, what's hot and new, and that was what distinguished them from some of the other sites back then. But there was a lot of AJ Bowen worshiping going on on the Fright when I came in.
No wonder he was so complimentary of Icons himself. He's like, they love me.
Probably. I would not, legitimately, I would not doubt that.
I'm not gonna lie. He's kind of full of himself, but you know.
But that was part of the thing with those guys that, it was, it wasn't so much Mike, but a lot of it was, hey, you know what? And I think because they were doing interviews with up and coming people like, AJ Bowen and other people along those lines, and they'd gone out to Hollywood a couple times and met some of those people, that there was a lot of glorifying of AJ Bowen and AJ Bowen types, the up and comers.
Yeah.
So.
And I really think that might be why he was so complimentary at my shots, and he's got an ego, but he's an actor, and I think most actors do have an ego. I think you kind of have to.
Oh yeah.
I don't. I mean, maybe that's why I wasn't cut out for it any longer. I don't know. Yeah, AJ can be full of himself, and it's not surprising of them because they were so complimentary of him. But they honestly, he's a good actor. He deserves credit for that. So, I mean, he deserves credit where credit's due, and that's one place where it's absolutely due. Well, now the conversation is, and I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
trying.
I'm
trying right. not to. I'm trying to steer it in one direction or another, and I'm also trying not to go off on too many tangents. But it's kind of just what I do. Brian knows this. He talks to me enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, it's like if you've listened to some of the other episodes of this podcast, you'll know I go off on tangents too. Believe me, like it's not just other people. It's me as well. But
Brian, I don't know if you know this, Brian, but Heather gave me topics that we were going to talk about tonight, and I don't think we've discussed either one of them so far. Have we, Heather?
We've touched on slashers a little bit. I mean, that was the thing that I thought that you guys didn't give any credit to when you you guys would talk about every other kind of horror pretty much except for slashers, and I'm like. Brian was like, I like a good slasher. I'm like, but what do you think makes a good slasher, Brian? And I really was disappointed that he didn't go there because that was what makes a good slasher? Well, you didn't have an answer for that, and I couldn't jump in and be like, because it was already recorded when I was listening. Brian, elaborate, damn it. But I feel like I have a good idea of what makes a good slasher because I love them and still hate them.
Yes, and I can tell you what makes a good slasher too, but I'll let you go first on that. So what makes a great slasher? Tell me, please.
What makes a great slasher? Well, my roommate told me that I had to mention gratuitous TNA, and I would have said that many years ago that was part of what makes a good slasher a good slasher. I kind of think that that's an element that is sort of it happens to be in most good slashers, some gratuitous TNA, and when I was a bigger pervert than I am today. I'm still a huge perv, but not as much as I was when I was younger. So, I don't appreciate the gratuitous TNA now as a more mature, less perverted person. But when I was younger, that would have been part of my answer. I think what makes a good slasher is creative kills. That to me is the bottom line. Creative kills. That's why the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is my favorite franchise easily, because that was the perfect premise for an infinite number of movies. Because I'm sad they didn't make an infinite number of Nightmare on Elm Street movies because the premise was wide open for that. Freddy kills people in their dreams, and people's dreams can be all kinds of crazy shit. And Freddy's already dead. He's already dead. Like Brian was saying about Jason, he's the unkillable killer. It's well, Freddy's definitely the unkillable killer because he was already dead and killing you in your dreams. This premise is perfect for just going on forever as long as you can be creative with it. It could go on indefinitely, and it's disappointing that it didn't, that the creativity kind of died. And now it's probably completely gone with Wes Craven being gone, but
yeah.
Because I thought they were working on a new movie with Robert Englund back as Freddy, and then Wes Craven died right after I read about that. So I don't know if that's still happening at all. But that premise was perfect because the kills could be as creative as the writers could be, and creative kills make a good slasher. And not to drop the same name again, but one of the best kills in a slasher was AJ's death in Hatchet 2.
I would definitely agree with that.
Movie,
yes.
Yeah, Brian and I saw it together in the theater. His death was fantastic. It was kind of predictable, but it was done so well.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't want to blow it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But yeah, that death scene was awesome because it was hilarious. And it was kind of predictable, but not entirely predictable. And the Hatchet movies are not as good as like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're the two that Brian and I watched together. We saw the second one in the theater together. Before seeing that one, we rented or Netflix or whatever the first one.
Yeah, we Netflixed the first one. So,
yeah, and that the first one wasn't bad. So seeing the second one was. I mean, we saw it because of AJ, and the second one was better in a lot of ways. I could not get my eyes off of Danielle Harris's eyebrow though. That eyebrow drove me insane. The Botox was strong with that one. But the kills in Hatchet 2 were good. I never saw Hatchet 3 because I didn't see any point. Because it kind of felt like Hatchet 2 killed the, like, it kind of killed the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
momentum?
Yeah, I almost said momentum, but it's like, there just wasn't,
You didn't need anything after that. It was kind of completed
right. It's like,
what you needed to do with that
like
character.
It didn't seem to be more story. They used Perry Shen a second time as his own twin brother from the first movie to the second movie. It's like, well, and then they killed him in the second movie. So what are you gonna do? Like, you kill off all the main characters except for Heroine, and you kill the killer, or so it seemed. But it was pretty convincing. It was pretty convincing, and he wasn't like supernatural, and he wasn't doing. God, I can't remember the name of what was the name of the killer in Hatchet?
Oh. Victor Crowley.
Yeah.
Victor
was
Crowley.
That? Victor Crowley, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
But there was nothing that special about him as a slasher killer. I mean, they seemed very forced, the backstory on him. But the kills were pretty creative up to a point, and the story just felt like it was over at the end of the second movie. So I saw no whatsoever pushing the third. And I think they stopped there.
Yeah, and
probably because they knew that they were out of ideas. How are they gonna bring back Perry Shen again? They can't. But he was a great part of the first two movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know him personally, but I like him too. He's on General Hospital. So, I like Perry Shen, okay?
Okay, now.
I'll drop it. Well, because I don't want it to all be about AJ Bowen. I'm dropping Perry Shen. And I don't know him personally. I like him as an actor. He's very good.
Well, and I
don't know if he's award-worthy, but...
Well, and I think, yes, to Heather's point as far as what makes a good slasher, I do think creative kills obviously plays a big part of it. I think to a certain extent, you do have to look at story. I mean, I think that's part of the reason the Nightmare on Elm Street movies that most people consider the best ones are far and away the best ones in that franchise, and some of the best slasher movies of all time, because of the fact that they're kind of ingenious story-wise, too. I mean, certainly... Go ahead.
I just disagree with you.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I wasn't going to start talking, like, a lot again.
Okay. But,
I disagreed with you.
All right. And one of the and going to Hatchet too a little bit. I know one of the reasons I was curious to watch Hatchet at the time was because of the fact that Kane Hodder, who played Victor Crowley and who played Jason in I think 7, 8, and 9 as far as the Friday 13th movies.
I thought he started.
And Jason X.
So that's the one that I watched with you.
Yeah.
And Jason X. Those
that's
four
right.
of them he's in.
That's right. It wasn't Jason X. I couldn't remember whether he was or not.
Yep.
And then was somebody else in Frey versus Jason. So
yes.
And yeah, it was funny watching Frey versus Jason a couple of days ago for the first time in a while. I'm like, does this work? I like the way they did. I thought they did a good job as far as saying that story up, as far as the fact that it's Jason in a Friday and Nightmare movie as opposed to the other way around. And I thought that was, I always enjoyed that aspect of the movie, but it's like, should I care about the characters that are getting killed here? It's like, no, not really. I mean, it helps to have characters. I mean, I think the first two, or at least the second Friday the 13th, has some of the cannon fodder for Jason that are interesting characters. And, it's like what could argue about like Tommy Jarvis from 4 through 6 of Friday 13th and that kind of absurd arc that they decided they needed they need a counterpoint to Jason. It's like, oh, let's have a sustained hero for 3 movies. The first 2 of which are ironically the final chapter in A New Beginning. But it's like, yeah, let's do and I do want to see those 3 episodes again. I do need to see those 3 movies again together this coming month because it has been a while since I've seen them. But
so 3 being what again?
Friday.
The first week is Friday the 13th.
Friday 13th, okay. 4 through 6.
I zoned out. I honestly, sorry, I zoned out when we started talking about Friday the 13th because I'm like, I know nothing besides a couple that I've seen that basically could have been the same exact movie, and then Freddy versus Jason, which I support. So I zoned out. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. To each their own. I mean, especially if you're more of a Freddy person than a Jason person. I mean, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I kind of get why.
I don't get the obsession with Jason. I know so many people obsessed with Jason and Friday the 13th, and I'm like, why? All the movies are the same.
And
except for the first one. I haven't seen the first one, probably because all I had seen of the sequels, like I guess the first one. What year did that come out? That came out in
1980.
Yeah, exactly. I was like really barely alive. I was like a year and a half old. It's like I was too young to have seen it when it came out. And then by the time the sequels were coming out, they were all the fucking same. And so I didn't know until I was an adult the backstory on Jason and what the first movie was actually about, and the fact that his mother was the killer in the first movie. I'm like, okay, I need to see the first one at some point, but it hasn't been a priority. Just because what little I have seen of the Friday the 13th movies, it's just all the same. I tried to watch Jason X because I was like, ooh, Jason is funny. This is going to be cool. And I couldn't. I don't even know how much I watched of it. I had no attention span for it at all. I was so bored.
Yeah, that was the first new Friday the 13th movie I'd seen in like 15 years when I saw it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so stupid. It's like it's Alien. It's an Alien movie with Jason as the killer.
And I think that one of the reasons I was drawn to Jason X, or is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I always think of it as Jason in space. So I mean, like literally, that's what my brain thinks it's called. Except I go, no, that's not the actual title. But one of the reasons I was drawn to it was because it was like Jason in space, and I like a good slasher, which is all about the creative kills And oh, he's Jason. How did Jason get to space? And Jason is killing people in space. Is he killing teenagers in space? How did teenagers get to space? And I'm like, I'm curious about these elements. Like, how creative are they going to get, and how are they going to do it? And then I tried watching it. I just couldn't. It was just so boring to me, and it bugs me a lot that I do like slashers for that reason, that creative kill thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie had, like, the premise, it seemed like it had potential for that. But then it went nowhere, like, at least fast enough for me to just zone out and not pay attention and finish it.
Yeah.
I don't know how it started. I don't know how it ended. I can't remember much of anything. I just remember being bored. So I don't understand the obsession with Jason. I will never understand the obsession with Jason. I know more people obsessed with Jason than anybody obsessed with Freddy Krueger, and that is weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, but Freddy's so much more interesting. Now, Freddy's origin is pretty fucked up, but you know, take away the whole like what child molesting shit. Okay, let's just pretend that didn't happen. Everything else about him in those movies is likable, and you kind of root for him because he's creative. Because it's like he's like, I'm gonna kill this person this way because this is the fun, interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to see the characters get killed, but I mean, some of them. But the way they get killed is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me chime in on this now as far as slashers. Okay?
Okay.
If you will indulge me for a minute or two, I'm going to go way, way back. Back in, say, 1981 or 2, or around this time, the second Friday, it must have been a little past Friday the 13th, 2 coming out. I had older cousins, and we'd go over there every Saturday. And my mom's sister, you know, she'd hang out with all day, and we'd hang out with cousins. And then at night, this is around the time that HBO really started to become popular and cable and all that stuff. And they'd watch horror movies on HBO at night. You know, Saturday night come along, and then I remember one time they put on HBO and Friday the 13th came on, and Friday the 13th 2 followed it, and I remember hiding behind the couch for most of it, peeking through and being scared the hell out of me. Now, granted, I was like probably 10 years old, and as I told Brian last time, and I said the nose, I'm a sensitive guy, and I was a sensitive kid. So, the capper of this is, behind my house when I was a kid, there was an acre and a half of woods.
Oh,
so
man.
my mom would come home. We'd come home. It'd be like 12:31 in the morning, and I'd step out of the car and look behind the house and think that Jason was going to come and get us. So I, for a long time, actually thought that those were good movies. I mean, they don't scare me now. I've revisited them, you know, and then they don't have any real scare effect on me now. But back when I was a kid in that primal stage, I was just scared to death of those flicks.
Mm-hmm. And then, being narcoleptic, you can understand why I might be scared to death of the Freddy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, I get what you're saying. Like, I was scared to death of Freddy as a kid because I have narcolepsy. I didn't know at the time that that's what's my problem. But, you know, I dreamed a lot. And I'm like, Freddy's going to fucking kill me. So I get it.
And you feel it on a personal level because even though it's just a horror flick on one level, you know, you have a personal thing with it because I had woods behind my house and you had, you know, full of sleep, right? You can't escape sleep.
And I have lots of vivid dreams.
You know, you can't escape sleep, and I couldn't make my parents move, you know, so that was what it was. Then I started to get older, and my taste started to change, and I started to watch horror that was a little more cerebral, a little less, you know, stalk and slash type stuff. And as I grew, you know, I physically grew quite a bit. Now, I'm about 6'1" now, and I round out at about 240 pounds. It's close to my weight. Even now, I'm still about 240 pounds. I'm pretty packed with, you know, muscle. And the thing is, I just think that, for the most part, I could take most slashes out if they attack me.
I was literally going to say that. I just was waiting for you to say it.
Yes, exactly.
I could take Jason.
I just wrote a review. I just wrote a review of Cult of Chucky a week ago or two.
Yeah.
And my thing with Chucky is that, if a fucking 18-inch tall dog comes to me, I'm gonna punk him into 1,000 pieces. He's gonna end up in pieces. I don't care if he's got a knife in his hand or not. And then the thing with the slashes is like that whole thing in the glut of the '80s. They all became the same, and then fortunately, Nightmare on Elm Street came out and changed that. But it was a bunch of summer camps and mental institutions and schools, high schools, and colleges and all that type of stuff. And it was the same thing over and over again. Whereas the stuff like I talked to Brian about how I love the Omen and The Thing and The Fly. Those are some of my favorite horror movies, and there's something more beyond just sticking a knife in something at that point.
Yeah.
So, but I will agree with you two on 3 points. I think 3 things make a great slasher. I think that heavy, you're right, creativity is one with the kills, because if you're going to do something like that, you better make them fantastic. Which is part of the reason I don't understand why everybody loves the first Friday the 13th flick, because I think 4 of those kills happen either off screen or below the screen, so you can't even see people getting stabbed or slashed. Mm-hmm. If you look at Pamela Voorhees when she gets decapitated, you can see the toothpicks that the phony head was stuck on the body with. I mean, everyone goes nuts about Savini's work on that. I think he's done far better stuff. Mm-hmm. And, it's a lot of, I know you get an arrow here and you get something there, but a lot of it is just the same stuff. And that's sort of, but again, creativity is big. Now, part of the problem with the Elm Street flicks, and I can appreciate the first few, well, not the second one so much because it's not really a Freddy flick.
The second one is laughable, but yeah.
Because the second one's not really, well, we'll talk about that some other time. But the thing is that once you get into part 4 and he's picking souls off a pizza, then for me, you've gone too far. When he's turning people into cockroaches in roach motels, that's not really for me. That's really not the flick for me at that point.
I love that scene. It's disgusting. Oh
because,
my God, it's so gross.
Well, you hate bugs, so of course you hate bugs. Of course, so you love that scene.
I guess I do hate bugs. I mean,
yes,
I hate it that. As a vegan, I feel really bad admitting how much I hate bugs, but yeah. That scene to me, like, when I saw it the first time, I was like, it was so awesome. Like, now it disgusts me, but I still think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, God. No, 4 was my favorite for the longest time. 4 was my favorite. And
4 is, I find plenty of fans. I find plenty of fans who love part 4. They go nuts for it. And, that's...
And I did too, until I got older and appreciated 3. For what it is. Like Dream Warriors is clearly the best of that franchise. But when I was younger, I liked 4 better because it was so ridiculous.
But that's part of my problem with Freddy Krueger. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine when Nightmare on Elm Street first came. They had a crappy DVD with no special features, but then they put out a Cinefilm version of something. And one of my buddies said, "Oh yeah, I just picked it up." I'm like, "Oh, Freddy's a fucking clown. It sells it out in the pants." And he's like, "No, he's not. Phil, you got to go back and watch it because in the first one, it's not like that at all. He's actually really scary." Mm-hmm. And then I went back and watched the first one, and he's really scary. Now, when I get to the 4th one, and it's, he's cracking jokes half the time, and then you go beyond that, like when you get to the 6th one, Freddy's Dead, it's pure parody, where he's playing a video game to kill somebody, and he's just sitting there, and it's like, I'm much more afraid of someone who's going to come at me and say nothing and have, a blank, I can fill in anything as a face than, hey, welcome to primetime, bitch, and stuffing somebody's head to a television. So that's just me. That's personal. We all have our likes and dislikes, and this is why I'm not a huge slasher fan. But getting back to what Brian was saying now, character is important. I think that the best, like one of my favorite slashers is Hell Night. I don't know if either one of you have seen that. That's got Linda Blair and it's got Peter Barton from Friday the 13th Part 4. Yeah, the 4th one.
I've heard of it, but I also know I haven't seen it.
Because Hell Night's a lot of fun, and the characters, I'm with them for a while, and I invested in them, and that's what you should do. Mm-hmm. I mean, Friday the 13th is you could take the characters, if you take out the final girls, you could take most of the characters and just switch them from movie to movie. It wouldn't make a difference, because they're just ciphers did. They're coming straight out of the generic stereotype generator, you know? Just crank it up and pop them out. There's no substance to any of them. You know, so I agree with that. And, you know, I think that part of the reason that Freddy is popular and part of the reason I like the few Freddy flicks that I like is because, you know, it's the third thing that neither one of you mentioned. And Heather, you kind of alluded to it, is, you know, it's the killer in it, the slasher himself. So if he's, you know, he's got, like Michael Myers in the Halloween flicks, rather. You know, I can kind of get into those because he's a guy who's supposed to be the face of all evil, and he's got this creepy backstory and all that. You know, why would a kid go and murder his family and all that? And that I can kind of get into. And again, you know, the problem with any of the slasher franchises is that the further they get, the more ridiculous they get. So by the time, Brian, that you hit Friday the 13th, Jason X, as you would say, Jason in Space, as Heather loves to call it. At that point, Jason has been defeated by a Carrie knockoff. He's gone to Manhattan on a cruise ship. He's been melted by toxic waste. He's been dragged down to hell and sent into space. But the funny thing is, if you watch those movies, even the later ones, they're still the same shit. Mm-hmm. So it's still him stalking and slashing, and there's no difference. In fact, I love to tell people that the greatest character development that Jason has is part 6, because he goes from being a mongoloid to a zombie at that point.
Yeah.
And that's character development as far as Jason Voorhees goes.
Well, I think Brian and I had that conversation that's one of the ones we watched together, right, Brian? I feel like this conversation feels like deja vu, because I think you and I talked about it.
I think it was 7, but 6 certainly probably came up into the conversation, because that is one of my favorite ones. And
yeah, I remember the whichever one it was with the sleeping bag being pounded against the tree.
That's 7. That's part 7. Yeah.
Okay. Now I know.
Yeah.
So that tells you how much they all blend together to me. What little I've seen, it's all except for in space. Well, okay, I can kind of picture one scene from that movie, because it was in space. It was different, slightly different. I remember Sleeping Bag in one movie and space shit in another.
But you want to talk about the Sleeping Bag? The Jason X was 3 movies after that, and they replicate the Sleeping Bag incident in that, and they make a joke out of it. But still, it's the same thing. It's over and over again.
Yeah, I actually was reading somebody and posted something like one of the horror groups I'm in on Facebook. Somebody was talking about that, and because I didn't watch the whole damn movie, I was like, oh, I missed that. They're like, yeah, you were talking about it. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I read somebody talking about it recently. Yeah, I can't. Those movies, I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. You know, I don't. And I lose respect for people when I find out that they're huge fans of Friday the 13th. I'm like, okay, now I know where we're at. You do you. Like, I try not to judge people on something like that, because I kind of, in the back of my mind, I'm always judging when someone tells me that they're like a huge Friday the 13th fan. So, my cousin being one of them, I kind of judge him for it. And then
the question is, if they made a Friday the 13th movie with AJ Bowen in it, would you be a fan?
Probably not. I would watch it just out of curiosity. I shat on House of the Devil, and AJ's in that. And AJ's out of that.
Yeah.
This is the first time I have openly shat on House of the Devil, and it's gonna go. Bryce gonna put that up on the interweb, and it'll be there for AJ to hear. I don't know if he will, but it's there, and I'm putting it out there publicly that I hate that movie. I really, really do. But you know, I would see anything that AJ's in just out of curiosity and to support him. But I'm not going to lie and say that something's good when it's not. Yeah. That's why I've just been mum about House of the Devil. I just haven't talked about it with many people, because I'm like, I'm just going to pretend like I didn't see that one. I'll talk about the ones I like and just shut up about the ones that are bad. And then, like, what was that one? It was like a Jim Jones kind of story. What was the name of that one?
Oh, I think it was Sacrament, right?
Yeah.
Sacrament, that's right. I didn't see that one, but I heard it was terrible. and I'm like, oh, I want to see it because
it wasn't.
But I heard it's terrible. I don't know if I want to sit through it.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I
especially
probably want to see it eventually, but I'm not chomping at the bit to do so.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially because of the fact that Sacrament is also found footage. And it's like, depending on your mileage you get out of that premise, which that one I don't think got much out of it. Like, I wasn't that terribly impressed by it. So, yeah.
I haven't really seen or heard much good about that movie.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate it as much as other people did, but I also wouldn't say go out of your way and see it.
The
I mean, especially
the premise alone tells me I would probably like it more than House of the Devil because, I mean, because Jim Jones, like, I'm fascinated by the whole Jim Jones thing. Like, any documentary on Jim Jones, I will watch it because I'm fascinated because I think I was married to a Jim Jones type one. Yeah. About 7 years ago. So, like, I think my ex-husband is kind of a Jim Jones type, so I'm kind of fascinated by Jim Jones and the whole phenomenon there. Like, just, so yeah, I'll watch any documentary about that. So, and the premise is kind of like that type of a premise, that cult leader kind of a thing. It's going to be interesting to me in some way, but yeah, I'm not jumping at it because I've heard that it's not very good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, and found footage is one of those things where it's like I've seen a lot of found footage movies. So few of them have really been effective and good.
Blair Witch was effective the first time around.
Oh yeah.
Like, you see that once, and then you find out that, like, you see that movie once and you believe that it's found footage, and then, like, you find out that it's not real, or if you see it after you already know it's not real. But one time through, and that's it. Like, I saw that movie in the theater with my ex-husband, and it's like, and that was the only time I needed to see it. I saw a movie, I liked it, but I've never gone back to watch it again because it was done effectively, but it's not the kind of movie to rewatch over and over.
See,
and
I do
that's
really.
I don't.
See, I do really like Blair Witch Project, and it's like I've gone back and watched it over the years. I liked it,
but I can only watch it once.
I think it holds up in multiple viewings, even after. Because I mean, by the time it came out, I mean, I basically already knew. It's like, oh well, it's not actually. This didn't actually happen. I mean, that was just a marketing hook. I basically knew that going in, but and part of it, I'll admit, part of the reason it had such an impact on me to begin with was I saw it at the Terra in Buckhead, like Monday after opening weekend, where that was the only theater was showing it. I was in like the 5th row from the front watching that movie. And that was just absolutely crazy. And I mean that definitely had a pretty big impact on me watching it. But I do think the first one holds up. Now the second one is dog shit.
Did they do the second one?
Book of Shadows, it's terrible. I finally watched it a few years ago.
Yeah. When you say the full title or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember vaguely that title, but I never saw it.
Yeah. Don't bother. It was awful.
I wasn't going
to. I finally watched it a few years ago and it was terrible. I just hated it. It was so stupid. And then Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
I
fine.
was just gonna say because I saw Blair Witch when it literally I think opening weekend came out.
Yeah.
I got you both trumped on this one. I got you both trumped on this one because I saw it at the Angelica sneak preview before it came out, and the two directors were actually at streaming, and they were signing free posters, which my friend Dave got signed, but I decided not to. I wasn't doing the autograph thing at the time. That was before that, and had I probably could have made a fortune off that poster with the way that money went. That film went.
Yeah.
And now, as far as I go, I am not a found footage guy at all. I think that they're derivative and it's limiting, and that one works for me at first, and it doesn't hold up for me so much anymore because it's basically 3 whiny kids in the woods.
And that's what that's what I was saying. But I was just saying that because I thought that's the only time I've seen it. Maybe watching it again now, so many years removed, maybe I would still appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was the point I was about to say. Not trying to say I thought opening weekend. No.
Well,
I wasn't where I was going with that, Phil. I was trying to say.
Well, no. I'm just, I'm using my bragging rights now.
Yeah, I don't have bragging rights. What? Because I know one guy who is a working actor. I know other working actors. We live in Yollywood here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. I know working actors, and it doesn't impress me anymore. It kind of upsets me that AJ moved out to LA. Like, why did you stay here? Like you could have stayed here. I honestly never saw it coming that Atlanta would boom in the film industry.
Yeah.
I might have stayed in acting myself had I thought that was ever going to happen. But I was like, I couldn't make it in LA or New York. Forget it. And so I changed my whole life plan. And yeah, I gave up acting, and then I moved back to Atlanta, and it's got this booming film industry, and it caught me completely off guard. But
yeah,
AJ moved out to LA, did the whole LA thing, and he's an LA guy now. But I know working actors here. It doesn't impress me anymore. Like most of the working actors I know, they're like struggling to scrape by like Joey on Friends.
Yeah.
So, it was sort of like awesome when AJ was sort of famous-ish, and then like now it's not a big deal because he's still only sort of famous-ish. he's kind of famous in the horror genre, and yeah, that's not a bragging right just because I know him. He doesn't acknowledge my existence really. Every now and then he does, but whatever.
Hey, look, I never got to play the tuba alongside AJ Bowen. You can brag about that. I can't.
I can brag about that. That is true. I didn't get to sit next to him in symphonic band though. It was never that good. He had graduated before I made the top band. Mm-hmm. So. But he was a dick to me, man. That's not a bragging right. He was a dick to me. It was a love-hate relationship all through high school. In private, he was nice to me. In front of anybody else, total fucking dick. Total dick. And I've got plenty of people who will back me up on that because they were part of him being a dick to me. In the tuba section, I was the girl. I got picked on a lot, and it kind of started from the top with AJ. So, yeah, that's not bragging right. That's I'm like, fuck him, man. Why do I care about his career? Oh, because it was the love-hate relationship. It's the love part of the relationship. And I'm like, he's not a bad guy. He's a good guy. We were friends in private. He was nice to me in private when there weren't other people around. He was a dick to me. But I still care about him. And he's talented, so I support him. If he wasn't talented, I definitely wouldn't say shit.
Yeah.
At least you can be honest about that. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we covered slashers.
Yeah.
Happy having.
And we
touched. Have we covered slashers?
I think we have. We've.
Yeah, you guys think we have. I feel like there is
points on it.
That topic, but.
Well, and it's funny. It's sort of, it's like talking about with you, Heather, as far as why, the nightmare movies have an effect on you, and Phil, why Friday the 13th at the time sort of had an effect on you. It's funny because of the fact that it's like I was in Scout, so I did a lot of camping, and for some reason it's like I don't remember like really ever thinking that, oh man, I better not be doing this, or like Jason's gonna like pop out and stuff like that. And I never really had that sort of putting those two things together, probably because when I was in Scouts, I wasn't really watching horror. Now, I will say when we had projection at the movie theater, and that's the projection booths can be a dark place. That was sort of when I was in projection. That's when I started watching horror movies again, and when I sort of start on a regular basis, and especially a regular basis in October. And I think that's when my taste as far as the type of horror really started to solidify myself. So so if I'm like alone in the building on my own at late at night or early in the morning or upstairs, it's like deep down I know nothing is actually up there, but at the same time you have those. Yeah, I certainly have had those moments where it's like I'm hoping nothing's actually up here, and it can be a bit creepy there. But yeah, now I have no problem like making videos of me in like a dark, empty movie theater, like listening to horror movie soundtracks and stuff like that while I'm working. So, but yeah, I mean, I think
are there any horror movies that like are set in that kind of a creepy setting of a projection booth? Are there movies that exist like that? Because that sounds like a good.
I don't
that sounds
necessarily
like a good like place to set a horror movie. Now that you're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an interesting place to set a horror movie. I mean, you wouldn't be able to
scares, though.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily be able to set an entire movie there. I mean, but I mean, I think going to my favorite horror movie, The Shining. One of the big things that works for people about The Shining is the vastness and the emptiness of the Overlook Hotel when that family is in there, and the fact that they are isolated, and the fact that it's just them, and yet there's this other thing in that hotel, and it's I think it's the sense of because if you're the only person in like a movie theater, it's like it can be a bit unnerving, and there's a lot of like little nooks and crannies and stuff like that people could hide in, and people could jump out at you in, and so I think that's part of where I put those two things together. But no, I don't think there's anything. I mean, I'm sure there have been like scenes in movie theaters and stuff like that, but
I find movie theaters scary and creepy just like as an audience member because it's dark even when the lights are up, and I'm afraid of what I'm going to sit in. And I know people do disgusting things in movie theaters sometimes. So I'm like, I'm really disgusted. Like I try to check that at the door when I go to see a movie in the theater because I'm always creeped out and kind of a little bit terrified of what the fuck I'm gonna sit in or put my hand in or touch or whatever. Yeah, that's the bad thing about movie theaters. I don't trust that they're getting cleaned properly, etc. No offense to your
no,
Brian.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've had this discussion
my problem
before.
With movie theaters and why I find it scary. I find the potential bodily fluids in the seats scary, and the and those look kind of like, I mean, snacks, obviously a little bit scary.
Yeah.
So Songs from Outer Space. One of the scariest things about that movie to me was the popcorn. So, popcorn being left behind in the seat in the movie theater. Gonna bring me back to that movie, which gave me nightmares until adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes it like you're pathetic. I know. Killer Sounds from Outer Space gave me nightmares until I was an adult. It was the popcorn. It was the cotton candy and the popcorn. But popcorn is something that is eaten in movie theaters, obviously. Cotton candy, not so much. I don't like calling like kernels of popcorn coming at me in the theater. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to make a joke here, and it's going flat. Thanks.
No, I just find it amazing that different things that terrify different people in life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you see the popcorn coming to life in Killer Sounds from Outer Space,
no, I got you.
And when you see it as a kid, like that's like, okay, that's fucking creepy and terrifying. And you add the narcolepsy and like the vivid dreams I have. I haven't had these nightmares in a long time, thank God. But I had those nightmares well into adulthood. about that movie. It was the cotton candy cocoons and the fucking popcorn. It wasn't the clowns. The clowns scare me. They were cool. I liked the clowns in Coast of the United States. And I don't like clowns at all for any reason, but those clowns didn't look like humans in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't scare me. But the popcorn did. The popcorn scared me. It came to life, and popcorn isn't supposed to do that.
Killer Clown is one of those movies for me where it depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I watch it and I'm like, wow, this is a really funny flick. And sometimes I watch it and I'm like, wow, there's some really sinister shit going on here, and this is pretty creepy.
Yes.
So
yes, that's all I can say to that is yes, absolutely. That is exactly right.
Okay, so talking about popcorn. So Heather, have you ever seen Troll 2?
No, but I want to. Oh my god, I think Alex downloaded that too. I think he did. Like all the bad movies he downloaded, I think that's included because he and I both want to see it because it's terrible.
Yeah, and I think as a vegan, you will appreciate it to a certain degree.
That's like poultry, guys.
But
as vegan, I appreciate it to a degree.
Well,
I don't know if I'm supposed to appreciate it, but I kind of do, and I kind of don't.
Well, I mean,
and Phil understands. Phil is the reason I saw that movie.
Yes.
Well, and the reason I say to degree is because of the fact that it's completely absurd. It's completely, it's not scary. It's just so bad it's funny, and it is genuinely so bad it's funny.
Good.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly the kind of movies I love to watch. Ones that are they're so bad they're funny.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of funny horror, and like you mentioned appreciating a movie because of vegan, and we're talking about horror movies, and my first thought was Poltergeist. I have conflicting feelings about that movie. And I have very, very conflicting feelings about that movie. I bought it because I enjoyed it the first time watching it for free on YouTube, and then I when I watched it at home, like on my bigger screen, not just on YouTube, I was like, I don't know if I feel good about this person. I'm very conflicted about a lot of elements of that movie, but it's disgusting and it's funny and it's got gratuitous TNA and it's trauma, and I understand. I mean, that's all those things are part of trauma film. But yeah, that movie is messed up, and I kind of love it, and I kind of feel bad about liking it at all.
I will tell you who does love it, Lloyd Kaufman, because that's his favorite film that he's made.
Is it his favorite?
It is absolutely. I've had him say that to me a couple times.
Well, I guess it's a good one for me to be that was my introduction to trauma, so I guess if that's his favorite, then it feels fitting that was my introduction to trauma film.
And then you graduated up to Dumpster Baby.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm gonna name drop it somebody else who is not a big fucking star or in any genre at all. She's a massage therapist. LP Pavlik is Kika, Dumpster Baby's mama in Dumpster Baby, and she's my friend. And that's why I saw that movie because she's in it, and I'm like, you're in a movie that has a title like Dumpster Baby. I have to see this. Just the title is like, I have to see this. But now I've got a friend who's in it. Now I really have to see it. And she called it the worst movie ever made. Somebody else was like, no, it's the second worst movie ever made. I'm like, and I went and I saw it, and I'm like, this is fascinating. I don't know how else to describe it because it's not a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it is. There's something weird about it that makes me think this is either a brilliant art film or it is just random shit. It's just, I don't know. It's one or the other. I can't figure it out. It's somewhere in between brilliant art film or just random shit. And I really dig it for that reason because it makes, talk about cerebral movies. To me, that's a cerebral movie. And maybe it's not supposed to be, but it makes me think. Because I'm trying to figure it out. Like, is it supposed to be deep? Or is it just random shit that's messing with my head, making me think it's deep? It's very bizarre. It's not, by the title, I expect it to be something else altogether. But, and it's not, so it's not like, from the title, you expect it to be something else than what it actually is. But that alone makes it interesting to me. Like, I was expecting, especially knowing it was Trauma, and with that title, I was expecting something closer to Poltergeist with some baby born in a dumpster with like radioactive shit or something. But it was nothing like that at all. It was just really fucking weird. And I've watched it like 3 times at least now. Probably 4. Because I keep watching it like on LP's birthday. I'm like, because Phil wants me to write a review of it because he doesn't want to watch it. And I've asked for a few times now, and I keep thinking like I should finally give Phil that review he wants, and it'll be like a kind of a birthday gift for LP. I'll watch it on her birthday every year, and I'll finally do this review for Phil. And I still haven't done the review because I'm a slacker. But I've watched it on LP's birthday for the past couple of years, and it's like, it's a mind fuck kind of movie, and I love that about it. But I don't know if it was meant to be like that. I don't know if it was a happy accident for people like me, or if it was just an experimental nothing. I don't really know. I mean, and I can't really say much about it because I think it's one of the reasons it's hard to review too. It's like it goes in so many different directions, and a lot of people can't get all the way through it. And the first time through it, I wasn't sure I would make it through. And then I got to the end, and I'm like, I gotta rewatch that, figure out what the fuck I just watched. And that was literally my thought at the end of the first time through it. I was like, I have to watch it again just to figure out what the fuck I just finished watching. So it's Dumpster Baby is just, I don't have the words, and I think that's why I also don't have the review. I call myself a slacker, which is part of it, but also I don't have the words because especially without spoilers. I mean, I don't know how to review that movie without spoilers because it just takes so many freaking turns. It's bizarre. You gotta see it, Brian. I have it. I have a copy of it. LP signed it for me for my birthday last year. He autographed it. It was like a joke kind of gift from my roommate, and he went.
Okay, well, so we got to satisfy both of the things you put before me. You said we needed to talk slashes and we needed to talk trauma style movies together. So we got to both of those. You were too quiet, so Well, I'm a trauma fan, and I'm a trauma fan for, some odd reasons.
Well, what are those reasons, Phil?
Well, as you mentioned before, that was part of it when I was younger, yes, and trauma is into boobs. As a matter of fact, on a bunch of the DVDs, which I have, they have what they call the Trauma Intelligence Test, which, if you make an acronym out of that, is TIT. Yes, so that's where trauma's at. So that was certainly part of it. And, trauma is obviously into extremism. But I also think that Lloyd Kaufman, who I've put into Death Ensemble's Hall of Fame, is a mad genius on some levels. Because it's not just about, it is about the tits and the gore and all that, but, he's making comments. He's making comments about, society in every one of his movies that he writes and directs. And again, it's not deep stuff by any means, but you look at Toxic Avenger, let's say, and you're talking about there's the gym culture that he's attacking at that point, and there's the whole toxic waste and nuclear stuff from the 80s that's in there. Poltergeist obviously is about vegetarianism and veganism and the fast food industry and how disgusting that is. So there's definitely some stuff that's going on there on another level, which I always appreciate. So it's a mix of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he lures young boys into these deep social issues with tips.
I have no problem with that.
Movies, you can't lure young boys into movies about deep social issues many other ways. But maybe Lloyd Kaufman, he is a mad genius for that.
Now, I will give him credit on this too. He is he's no opponent of man-ass either, so there's some male nudity in those flicks as well.
True, yes. His own ass included.
Brian, have you seen Poltergeist?
Okay, I'm going to out myself as somebody who I don't think I've ever seen a trauma film.
Then you've never seen Lloyd Kaufman's naked ass, and consider yourself blessed on that one.
Brian needs to over here more often because I personally own 2 trauma films, Poltergeist and Dumpster Baby, an autographed copy of Dumpster Baby, and Alex, my roommate, has all the Toxic Avenger movies. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not that familiar with a lot of trauma films, but that's a great place to start. So, Brian, you can come over. I know you've got Scuttle Video up there, but you don't have any trauma, and we got trauma over here.
I also have to say something here. Going back to Lloyd, I guess it was around 2010 or 11. A buddy of mine, that buddy who told me about Freddy being scary, got together over the course of a weekend because we both love horror flicks and we were watching a bunch of them together, and we looked at each other like, we could write much better shit than this. So we wrote a script, and I wrote it as a trauma film, and I kind of wrote it as the fourth, nuke my flick. And I met Lloyd, and I gave him a copy. And then a couple weeks later, I met him at a convention, and I gave him a copy. And then a couple weeks later, he was signing his second or third book at the Strand in New York City. So we went, and we asked him about it, and he said he loved it, but it was way too expensive. He couldn't make it on the budget he had. And then I won a lunch with Lloyd about a year or 2 later, and I was allowed to bring a guest, so I brought my friend there, and the 2 of us discussed low-budget filmmaking with Lloyd. He was trying to convince us to make our own movie, but I'm not really the director or that. Well, that's too complicated for me. I just want to write. But yeah, so Lloyd and I have a pretty deep, intimate history, and I've never slept with him, so that's good.
See, so you can name drop a little bit too. You've got something of a relationship with Lloyd Kaufman. You didn't grow up with him. You didn't crush on him. But you know the guy, kind of. You've had conversations with him. You've had more conversations with Lloyd Kaufman than I've probably had with A.J. Bowen, and I grew up with A.J. So, A.J.'s a big dick to me. That's why I like watching him die in horror movies.
Just remember, Brian.
Edit that out, Brian.
Just remember.
Don't edit that out.
Brian, just remember, Sonic Cinema podcast number 22, the A.J. Bowen story, okay?
I'm going back to it because you guys said that. Like, I had intentionally thought in advance, don't talk about AJ and his movies too much. But it's hard not to, because literally he is the reason I know both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the reason you know each other. So
yeah,
it all ties in.
That is actually true.
It's fair. It's fair game. It's absolutely fair game. Plus, you stick to me, and I like watching him die. So. And he was a dick to me, and he dies in movies for a living.
I'm gonna have to give AJ a big hug if I ever meet him, and thank him for knowing you and Brian.
I'm so sorry you ever knew her in real life. I say that to Brian all the time. I'm so sorry you know me in real life.
You know, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that.
So Brian, let me ask you. Let's get you on those. Are there any really low budget, you know, low budget, no budget microcosm flicks that you really love in the horror genre?
Besides Troll 2. Is Troll 2 low budget or is it just bad?
It's it's not high budget at all. It's very much
Oh,
low
okay.
budget. It's
Okay.
you know
Just curious.
it's a sequel to a movie called Trolls with
Yes.
even fewer stars than the original Trolls and no trolls. Spoiler alert.
No, it's goblins. Yeah, it's not
Yes.
trolls.
And if that doesn't make you want to watch Troll 2, then by God, I don't know what else would.
I want to just for its reputation. Just the reputation alone. I want to see it.
Well, Heather, if you end up watching Troll 2, you have to see the documentary called Best Worst
Yes.
Movie,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is awesome.
That I know my roommate has downloaded. I'm almost positive he downloaded.
That is an amazing documentary because this guy who was in the movie, I think he's like a dentist now or something,
Yes.
and that movie had a revival a couple years back, and then all of a sudden he was playing with and stuff for being in Troll 2. He's like the hero of the film.
Oh yeah, the kid who was the hero in the movie is the one who directed the documentary. And
Yes, that's right.
The guy who's the dentist now was his father in the movie. And I got a chance to see that at one of the art house theaters, the Landmark Theater in Atlanta 10 years ago with my friend Ronnie and then another friend of mine who's absolutely obsessed with Troll 2. Like for his birthday one year, like I went over to his house and he basically it was almost like a shot in a time sort of commentary on Troll 2. He's so obsessed with the movie. But yeah, we went to and they did a screening of Troll 2 and the director of the documentary and the actor who played the father were both there, and that was really fun. It was
Well, that must have been a ball, yeah.
Oh yeah, and, I mean, watching that movie with a crowd is something else. It's just absolutely batshit insane. I mean, it's a terrible movie, but it is truly one of the fun.
And it's
so
become
bad
like
it's good.
thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So besides that, back to Phil's question, is there any like low budget trash that you love? I low budget trash. How much?
You know, and the thing is, it's like I can't say there's like, there are a lot of low budget, like independent movies that I've watched that I've had the chance to screen because filmmakers have asked me to watch them and write reviews of them. But I mean, there's nothing in that vein that I would necessarily consider trash because it's like most of them have actually been pretty good. Like there is.
Have it been horror movies or other kinds of movies?
Well, I mean, a little bit of everything. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of everything. Like I've gotten horror screeners, I've gotten dramas, comedies, what have you. I mean, there is this one horror-ish type movie. It's kind of it talking about like trauma and stuff like that, and talking about this type of low budget sort of exploitation movie. It's sort of cheesy, B movie vibe. I mean, it does sort of have this this vibe. It's called The Taint, and it's it's called The Taint, and it's.
Did I hear correctly?
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did hear correctly.
I mean, I know I know the word is inherently dirty, but I can't not hear it that way. Is it about what my brain goes to or something else?
It sort of goes that direction, what your brain is thinking, but it's sort of also this, in a way, if I remember correctly, it's been several years since I've seen it, but it's sort of a science gone awry type movie as well, and it's very low budget, very B movie. It's a lot of fun though. And the
Science
review,
gone awry, you said.
yes,
Science gone awry? Yeah,
yes.
the first thing that comes to my mind is I can't believe I haven't mentioned Frankenhooker. All this talk about terrible, cheesy, low budget shit. Mm. That's science gone awry too.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's another favorite of mine, and that's like, and I made wrote a review for Phil about that one.
Yes, you did.
And I mean, I was my best work, but the movie, but I hadn't seen the movie in a couple years, but it left enough of an impression on me that I could write a review without watching it again immediately before writing, because fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm. Now she had on that topic of you writing reviews, and I'll tell Brian and the rest of the world here on the internet or anyone who listens that part of the reason I love your reviews and the way you write things is that you have a totally different, even when we like the same stuff, you write stuff in a way I totally would not write about stuff. And I think that's great because I get another perspective on things that is intelligent, and it's a feminine perspective, and it's really creative and well written, and I just love what you write.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. You're welcome.
Sorry, I haven't done more of it.
There's always time. At least you're on the podcast.
My brain goes to all the perverted places, though. And I've done that with Brian. I've written a couple of reviews for Brian, too. And my brain just goes to that perverted place too much. I don't. This is why I told you guys, like, I'm more sick and demented than you are. And so when we talk horror, it's going to be a different conversation. Both of you are. I'm not a non-cerebral person, but both of you are way more, like, I guess, frankly, mature. Like, you're both older than me, but like I'm still my sense of humor is still like I still have a sick, immature sense of humor, and I'm not really apologetic about it because life's more fun that way. So, yeah, I know I see things differently. Like I said, we disagree on a lot of stuff, but we agree that Freddy vs. Jason was a piece of shit, right?
Yes, Brian doesn't agree with us, but that's okay.
I know, and I was holding it back really hard when Brian was talking about it, like in positive terms. Like, no, that movie's fucking terrible. And I've been trolling him every time he mentions it on Facebook. I'm trolling him with Pokemon gifts and stuff.
Yeah, you did.
I hate that movie so much, and I'm like, you're not allowed to love this because it's bad. And it's like Ron called it a guilty pleasure, and I'm like, yes, you should feel guilty for finding pleasure in this because it's that bad. You should feel guilty. It's that bad. I sat through that, and I wanted that piece of my life back, so I had to write a review just to kind of make it worth my while. I don't even remember the review that I wrote. I just know that I wrote one and put it up on the Dev Ensemble. I remember shitting on the movie, and that's about all I remember of my own review because I hated it so much. Kelly Rowland was my favorite part of the whole movie. Kelly Rowland, the second most famous person from Destiny's Child, who is like way less famous than the most famous person from Destiny's Child, is my favorite part of Freddy vs. Jason. And she's a surprisingly not terrible actress. I was very, very surprised she wasn't worse. She wasn't great, but in that cast, she stood out as stellar. So
that is, you're definitely not wrong about that. I watched it again on Tuesday, and you're definitely not wrong on that. Like, yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, it's that's sort of where I brought up the question when we were talking about slasher movies earlier, as to, does it matter whether you actually care about like the cannon fodder for the killer? It's like, how important is that to a good slasher? And it's like, I think it matters to a certain point. I mean, I think like what Phil says, like, except for especially with the Friday the 13th movie, or maybe it was Heather, but one of you mentioned it's like, except for the woman who inevitably, the one person who inevitably survives at the end, it's like all of those characters are reversible. And like I watched,
Yeah.
and I watched Friday the 13th Part 3 for the first time in like 30 years recently, and I'm like, oh my god, this one's lousy because it's so predictable and so like I just don't care about any of those characters.
And that was number 3. It went on how long? That was number 3 that it was that predictable. And they made how many more?
Yeah, that would be 7 more, and then the reboot in 2009. So
exactly.
Yeah.
If you count Freddy versus Jason, there's 12 of them altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to remember that they were pumping those out like at a breakneck pace. Friday the 13th Part 2 came out less than a year after the first one did.
Yeah.
So the first one came out, made a shitload of money. That means they wrote, filmed, and edited one and had it out like 10 or 11 months later.
Yep. And then
so you would know because you were alive.
Yes, because I'm old.
Way back when.
Yes, but that was the thing. Those movies used to come out like once a year.
Yeah.
So it was just boom, 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 throw them out, and that's why, especially with the Friday the 13th flicks, I'm telling you, you're watching the same movie over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And they made a ton of money for Paramount until Paramount got to the point where they started making less money, and then they said, we don't need this anymore.
Mm.
But for a long time, for a decade there, that was what it was, and you had these interchangeable characters. And then you have the later ones where they start throwing in characters for one scene just to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I call collateral damage victims, people who just show up out of nowhere in the story halfway through and a scene later they're dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, that's absolute garbage screenwriting. And how am I supposed to care about somebody I just met 30 seconds ago,
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have 4 kills with meaningful characters in a series than 14 kills of meaningless characters I don't give a fuck about,
Yeah.
That's where I'm at on that.
That brings me to one of my favorite slashers that I hope and pray they never, ever, ever make a sequel because they will ruin it for me forever. And that's Your Next. I don't care that it goes back to the thing you guys keep teasing me about. That movie is a great slasher for the exact reason that Phil just said. It's like you care about the characters who die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your Next does a great job of building a family. It feels like a real family while you're watching it.
It's a family, and you watch each member of the family die one by one, and you're wondering what the fuck is going on. Except I figured it out early on. Don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but to me it was very predictable who was behind it all. But it may be some people weren't picking up on it that readily. I don't know. But yeah, you watch this whole family die one by one, but they build the characters and they build the family dynamic. They built the family dynamics before anybody died.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the best thing.
Yeah.
And then they had, because it was like a holiday celebration or whatever, the adult kids brought their significant others, so that added to the body count.
Mm-hmm.
That helped. And that's a good thing with a slasher is you don't want a really high body count, but a higher body count is sometimes enjoyable. Having the significant others with the adult children, it's like that adds so much more to the story and the family dynamic and the characters that you care about or don't care about or curious about. And even the neighbor dies. It's like there are people. It's like a whole. It's a family. It's a family, and it's in a neighborhood, and they built it up perfectly. They killed people off almost perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
and the end paid off. And if they ever made a sequel, I'd be so pissed because some movies just don't need a sequel, and that movie is a great slasher. Like, it is such a great, like, contemporary classic to me, I think. And I don't know. I know a lot of people who saw it and loved it, and I was so happy to see so many people love it like I did. I know a lot of people never did see it and probably never will, and that's sad for them. I think that the people who won't see it are the people who are obsessed with Friday the 13th and think that Friday the 13th is like the most amazing franchise ever. Um, but I think those people just like a high body count. I think people who are really fascinated with Friday the 13th just like the body count. I don't think they care about much more. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't have deep conversations with those people because, like I said before, I kind of judge them.
Well, and the thing is, it's like I'm somebody who I actually, even though I will admit that Freddy is definitely a more interesting villain than Jason. The first two Friday the 13th movies are two of my favorite horror movies of all time. But
and I understand
the reason
without seeing them, just knowing about them, I understand it.
Yeah. And the reason those two stand out is because of the fact that it's a very circular arc. It's very it makes sense to go from film 1 to film 2 based on what the story is. And
right.
Yeah, but and it's like, yeah, there are sequels that I enjoy, but it's like most of the sequels I can do without seeing again. And
all right, while we're on the subject of Friday the 13th, I didn't mean to cut you off. Can I tell you the one thing I really hate about that film more than anything else?
Okay.
The first one?
The first one. As we have established, spoiler alert, Mrs. Voorhees is the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is supposed to be a mystery. You're supposed to be trying to figure out who this killer is as this movie goes through. Until she reveals herself, you've never even heard of Mrs. Voorhees before. She's never mentioned. I think the kid drowning is mentioned at some point, but you're asking me to solve a mystery with a character that's never been mentioned before, and therefore that is impossible, and it doesn't work by the mystery route. It doesn't work by mystery rules at all.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, do you consider it necessarily? I mean, I think one of the fundamental questions you have to ask in that case is the first Friday the 13th sort of, is it set up to be I guess to a certain extent it's set up to be a mystery, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. With the second one, I think it is. But at the same point, I don't know that the first one is. I think the first one, you've got the title was the big hook. Obviously, Friday the 13th. That makes sense.
Yes.
But you didn't have. I think to a certain extent, it's obviously, copying the Halloween template of slasher movie, of what the slasher movies became, but at the same time, I don't know that that's necessarily set up to be, who's doing. I mean, yes, on the one hand, it's like, who's doing the killing, but I like the fact that you don't really get an idea of that until like she presents herself. I like that. I like the fact that it's like,
as someone who hasn't seen it, I'm curious. I'm more curious to see it now, hearing both of your angles on that, because I can see both points.
mm-hmm.
Like I can see how watching it as a mystery and when the mystery is ultimately like solved or revealed, it's somebody who was never even a factor in your mind from the start. I can see how that would be both a positive and a negative as a viewer. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely see it as either or. And I have not seen this movie. I feel so bad. I feel like there's so many horror classics I haven't seen, and I call myself a horror fan. And all the horror movies that I love tend to be like some of the most obscure movies. And I was told Phil once ago, I think, that like my love of horror started with movies I don't even remember the names of. I had to look up Cannibal Holocaust. I had to find the name. I don't even know. I think it was like a list of like the most banned movies or something, and that's when I figured out the name. I was like, oh, that was the movie that I rented that one time. It was like, because I just went. Brian knows the Brian Heat. this guy is not famous at all, but he's like born again and like super like family man now. Like bullshit. I won't say his name if he listens to this. But he and I would rent horror movies together. We would look for the most obscure shit we could find, looking for the most fucked up shit we could find. Because we were fucked up kids. And like I said, he's all born again Christian now, and I'm not buying it. But we rented messed up stuff that I can't remember the names of. Like because I was renting the obscure stuff forever, I missed all of these classics that people talk about. I only saw Rosemary's Baby like 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I'd ever seen that. And then I saw it and I was like, I don't get what the big deal is. Like, it's not scary at all. I don't understand why this movie was ever a big deal, but at least now I understand the references a little bit better. But like classic horror movies I've missed because I was busy watching all the weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have to see the first Friday the 13th because too many people have talked about it now that I can't not.
Well, let me know what you think, and let me know if you're, with me on this or Brian on this, because it's totally frustrating. I'm coming from a storytelling angle, and I just see it as it's so. I just can't believe that you never meet the person beforehand, and you're supposed to be trying to figure out who's doing this. But I can see Brian's point as well.
Yeah, I can see both of your points, but at the same time, I think that from a movie viewer standpoint, the frustration that you feel, the frustration you feel is from a story standpoint. What Brian likes about it, I think, is coming from a movie viewing standpoint. Like people who like movies with jump scares. I don't like movies with jump scares because of my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
I probably used to like it before my nervous system was all garbage. But now, like those jump scares, like no, thank you. I don't need to have a seizure right now. But the jump scares, like some people get off on that. Some people like the jump scares, and I feel like that movie was probably like enjoyable on that kind of a level. Like you're trying to figure it out, but you're also not. You don't care because there's other things going on that keep you like invested in the movie,
mm-hmm.
and not necessarily the story.
Yeah.
I don't know because I haven't seen it, but I can see that could be the angle Brian's coming from. Is that it's a movie viewing thing? Like roller coasters are just there's no story in a roller coaster. That's just one long like exciting thing with jump scares in a sense. Like you don't know.
But I will counter that. I'm not trying to figure out who's driving the roller coaster.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like I understand
the enjoyment of a horror movie with some people.
Yeah, and the thing is, I do understand what you're talking about, Phil. It's like, and I can definitely understand from your perspective why that's frustrating. I mean, I think for me, like I've never even thought about that. That it's like, well, you never really introduce the character before, except in that old, and except in that prologue where you don't even see the character. But I mean, that it's somebody who is familiar. That it's somebody who's familiar with those camp counselors that get killed in that opening sequence.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, for the characters who are rebuilding the camp for the bulk of the story, yeah, I mean, you don't get any sense that they know. You don't necessarily get a sense that they know the history or know of what happened there, and so yeah, I mean, in the second one, it makes sense that knowledge is there because of the fact that, I mean, it basically takes place shortly after the first movie, but and so they're trying to build the mythology behind Jason and why he's doing this, and that's one of the things that is so great about the second one. But yeah, the first one, I just never even think about that, and it's like you have that one moment with what's the old guy's name in the first two?
Crazy Ralph.
Crazy Ralph, yeah. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot his name. But yeah, you have that character who's the harbinger of doom. Uh, but at the same time, you don't really hear much of anything else. So I do understand where you're coming from though with that. But yeah, I like I said, I'm just not I don't necessarily think about that watching the
I I
movie. So
I want to I want to counter both of you guys with like throwing out Scream for a second because for me watching Scream the first time, I think I was watching it like Brian watched the first Friday the 13th, like not really thinking about the movie as a mystery of who this killer was.
Sure.
yeah,
But even though the killer turns out to be somebody that we know, like we get to know in the movie, you don't really start watching that movie. At least I didn't, thinking of it as a mystery to solve. It I don't really. I kind of feel like I need to watch Scream again now. But that when I saw Scream the first time, I didn't think that the killer was going to be anybody we knew. Like I didn't expect that at all. And then it turns out in the end it's somebody we knew, somebody we got to know, and he had a good reason or whatever. And then they made sequels and they managed to twist it. Like, but I thought that the killer was dead in the first one, and so obviously the sequels was more you're watching it more like a mystery. But the first one I felt like you're not watching it like a mystery at first. I mean, maybe somewhere in the middle, it feels more like a mystery. But at the beginning, it's just like this guy is going around killing people. What the fuck? What's the problem? Like you don't,
thing is,
like, you don't really know exactly what or why this stuff is happening.
well, and the thing
and
is,
they're not thinking of it as there's going to be a reveal.
Well, and the thing is, with Scream, it's a completely different beast, and it's like, yes, you're absolutely right. Especially with the first scene with Drew Barrymore in the first movie, it's like, no, you're not necessarily thinking of who it is. Now, I mean, Kevin Williamson in the script, I mean, obviously you have like little red herrings of, oh, it could be this person, could be this person, could be this person. The big hook of those movies, especially the first three, is how it's playing with the conventions that slasher movies followed for the longest time. And it's basically putting those on end. And so that's the
Right.
hook. That's the hook. It's not necessarily the mystery. It's the hook is.
Well, I get the hook.
Yeah.
Obviously, I get the hook.
Yeah.
But it's like I was comparing it to Friday the 13th because
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like the second one I can see as more of a mystery because you think that the killer is dead from the first one. Like, how are they gonna continue this? I thought the killer was dead, and the killer was dead, and it was like his mom or whatever, and so it's like, and you don't expect the twist of it being more than one person either, and so that's what I like about Scream is kind of the thing that you're saying you like about that, or I don't know if you said you like it or this is a phase you with the first Friday the 13th movie, but there's not, to me, I didn't watch it as a mystery at first. I mean, I guess it kind of became a mystery. Like I said, somewhere in the middle, it became more of a mystery.
Oh, yeah.
Than a horror. But, and the first, what is a good, I really do have to watch it again to see how like much into it you get before it turns into kind of a mystery. But you start out watching it not expecting the killer to be anybody you know. And I feel like, and it pays off in the end regardless.
Well,
and I feel that's kind of where you're coming from with Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it, you know, so I get it. I think I get it. And that's a movie. I think it's a movie viewing kind of experience more than a storytelling kind of thing. I don't know. With Scream, I don't know. Scream, like, I guess it works from a storytelling standpoint, but I don't know if Scream could be told as a story. If Scream can't be told as a story that anybody would care about. Kind of like, you know, the first Friday the 13th doesn't seem like it would be told as a story that maybe we care about if it's told like it plays in the film.
Yeah.
Scream works as a movie. It doesn't work as Scream works as a movie, but not an interesting story. which is weird because you have a reporter in the movie who is telling the story of Kitty Prescott or whatever. And it's her story. No, it's only interesting because a lot of people die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not, like, that part of the story is not terribly interesting, but the way it plays out, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I think that I understand both sides. I understand both sides of this between you guys. I really need to see this shit now. Like, God damn it. I mean, I have enough reasons to like get to my backlog of classic horror. Now you guys gotta go and make me watch something that was not at the top of that priority list.
Well, as much as I would love to continue this conversation,
I know.
Yeah, it's way past.
I'm already looking forward to hearing how you manage to edit this down.
Well, again, thank you very much for the invite, Brian. Anything good coming up on Sonic Cinema?
Well, I mean, we've got some. Yeah, well, I mean,
other than this, Heather.
Well, we've got this podcast. We've got the last two horror movie weeks coming up in the next couple weeks, which will be one horror movie that's extremely well known and actually sort of ties into last week's, which was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then the last one is a little bit more obscure, but for horror fans who are familiar with 30s and 40s horror, it's going to be somewhat well known. And then I've got lots of ideas for more podcasts in the coming months. Gonna have some guests on with that. I don't know if there are gonna be any individual ones I'm gonna do. I'm trying to do as many ones with guests as possible because that's just so much more fun than just me talking for like however long I feel like I can talk about something by myself. But yeah, there's not. So I mean, there are gonna be some more podcasts up. There's gonna be obviously reviews whenever I can get to movies. Gonna try, hopefully, catch up on movie week by year's end, and yeah, that's pretty much it. What does Death Ensemble have coming up?
Well, last time I told you I was working on getting the post up for the Ken Sagos interview, which is up now. So that's up. I've got some backlog. Speaking about what Heather was thinking about backlog, I have a whole bunch of reviews and whatnot that I have to revise and post. So there's much stuff coming on that end. And I try to put up every Halloween I do a Halloween suggested movie marathon once a year. I try to do it once a year anyway for Halloween. I'm not quite sure what the topic's going to be this year. I have a few because I like to put together a whole bunch of movies and suggest why you would want to watch them and why in particular, what particular order. So that'll be coming up on the 31st. And hopefully I'll have a whole bunch of writing from Heather soon. Right, Heather?
I don't know about a whole bunch, but I was going to say I used the Dumpster Baby review. and I was, I wanted to do a Hall of Fame entry soon for the Queen of Halloween, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, I definitely look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to do my homework though, man, because I love Elvira, and I follow her on Facebook, and Cassandra Peterson. Every time she appears on, like, she's been on The Talking Dead a couple of times, and she's buddy with Chris Hardwick now or whatever. Like, I follow her on social media and stuff, but I like all of her, like all the stuff that made her famous. It's like it's so far back in my memory. I'm like, I gotta do my homework to do this piece justice. Because she deserves a good piece. Because Elvira is the shit, and she's a huge part of why I love horror. Not because she herself was in horror per se. It's that there's just a dark, weird thing that is like I don't know why. I'm just demented, and I've always been drawn to the strange and unusual, like Lydia and Beetlejuice. I myself am strange and unusual. Like I relate to that, and I relate to Elvira in that way. So, and it turns out I'm not that unique, and that's kind of cool. I'm not as far obsessed with her as to have like a tattoo of her, like some people do at this convention she goes to, and they come up to her, and I follow her, but I just like all the things that made her what she is so deep in my memory that I have to do my homework, and that's where I'm behind on doing that piece because I got to do it justice. I can't just throw something together. It wouldn't be right. The dumpster baby review, I could possibly throw something together. I probably should at this point because I've owed it to you for a few years. But yeah, I'm gonna induct Elvira into the Hall of Fame soon enough. Hopefully by Halloween. She's the queen of Halloween.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for having both of us.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we were able to do this. We wanted to do this last week, but it didn't work out. But I'm really glad we were able to do this, the three of us together.
But I say happy editing to you, sir, because this is going to be a difficult one. Well,
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it'll probably take a while to do. It'll probably take a few days to do, and I probably won't have quite as quick a turnaround as I usually do on it. But I think it'll turn out fine. I'm not worried about that. So, but yeah, thank you both for joining me, and I'm going to turn off the record here and make sure that's all nice and safe before I let you guys go. So thank you very much to Heather and Phil for joining me, and definitely want to do this again with both of you because this was a lot of fun.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Right on.
I want to thank Phil Fasso from Death Ensemble once again for joining me on this podcast. It's a lot of fun to talk about horror with him. And thank you also to Heather Burnt, who is the person who brought us together. And I was really glad we were able to get her input on the horror genre on this episode as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Heather's work, there are a few reviews of hers on Sonic Cinema that you can check out. I know she did Devil Dog and Green Lantern back in 2011. I'm fairly certain she also did Burlesque as well. So on Sonic Cinema, those are the reviews of hers that are available. She also has written a lot for Phil over Death Ensemble, and hopefully we'll have some more coming up from her. As far as the podcast goes, I'm planning on doing one more Halloween theme podcast with another friend, Marv Dickey, who I reviewed a movie with back in May. And we're going to talk about our respective months of horror for the past few weeks. And then I also want to take a deep dive into the work of Andrei Tarkovsky with one of my favorite filmmakers. Hopefully, I will be able to do a Marvel podcast with Ron, and maybe we'll be able to get our friend Dave onto that one. And then hopefully Ron and a friend of ours will be able to get a Star Wars podcast done before The Last Jedi comes out or after. And then we've got the end of the year, we've got the Oscars coming up, and hopefully I will be catching up with a lot of movies in between then. So thank you very much for joining us, and I will talk to you later at www.sonic-cinema.com.